Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to be welcoming all of you here tonight. I think we've got students, faculty, staff, alumni, friends of the college. Thank you for taking the time to join us here at ArtCenter College of Design for a very special and important evening that we've entitled Unwrapping the Future, Designing for a Sustainable Tomorrow. We are thrilled to be hosting this exclusive screening of Seaweed Stories, a documentary presented by Lonely Whale and executive produced by ArtCenter Trustee Phillip Sarofim. Following this film, yes, we can... I'll be talking more about Phillip in a minute here. Following this film, we're going to have a panel of experts and design visionaries to discuss ways in which we might forge new pathways into a more sustainable future. You will hear more about the film and panelists shortly. For now, I do want to express how grateful we are for you, Phillip, for not only producing Seaweed Stories and bringing it here to ArtCenter for our community so that we can really think about what it is that is most important for our futures. We can discuss and we can have this conversation and eventually take action. I do want to take a moment to also recognize Phillip and Trousdale Ventures for their commitment to climate technology. If you're not aware of what they do, it's pretty amazing. I want to acknowledge their mission as a global venture capital firm, and that is to contribute to the betterment of the world by working with visionary entrepreneurs who are solving the most formidable challenges that shape society. Thank you for doing the work that you do, Phillip, and your team. So tonight highlights a shared mission that we all carry together, and that is really using our creativity, our artistry, our problem-solving skills, to be the catalyst for positive change and shape a better world. That is certainly our mission here at ArtCenter. Here at ArtCenter, we continue to build upon our proud history as a leader in design for social change through our Design Matters projects and collaborations, and our sustainable design curriculum evolving over these last couple of decades. So really excited to get the evening started, and now I'd like to welcome you, Phillip Sarofim, to the podium.
Wow, thank you, Karen, for such a warm welcome. Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to welcome you all here to ArtCenter College of Design, a place that constantly inspires me with its ability to turn creativity into meaningful action. Lonely Whale's work to prevent ocean plastic pollution through bold collaboration and innovative solutions is deeply aligned with what ArtCenter stands for: reimagining materials, shaping ideas, and leading the way toward a more sustainable future. Through programs like the Color, Materials, and Trends Exploration Laboratory, this institution is exploring emerging materials, innovations including natural fibers like mycelium, bamboo, banana stems, and seaweed, which have the potential to redefine sustainable design. By embracing materials like these, we can significantly reduce our reliance on petrochemical-based plastics that pollute our oceans and remain in our environments for hundreds of years. I can't think of a better place for tonight's screening. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Emy Kane, Executive Director and a founding member of Lonely Whale, who will share more about Seaweed Stories and the vision behind it. Emy?
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Phillip, for the warm welcome as well. As he mentioned, I'm the executive director at Lonely Whale. We are an award-winning nonprofit that has been preventing plastic waste from ending up in the ocean since about 2015. And it's incredible to spend the evening with you all at ArtCenter and alongside our organization's wonderful collaborator and executive producer of Seaweed Stories, Phillip Sarofim. You know, as we were planning for this evening, I was really reminded of the incredible potential of a dynamic group of people, like those of you in this room, and the power that you all have to really shape a future that is free from plastic waste. I really believe that when we do come together across disciplines, there's no limit to what we can do. And you know, what's interesting is that it was in this spirit that our visionary founders, Lucy Sumner, who's here with us this evening, and Adrienne Grenier launched Lonely Whale nearly 10 years ago. And for those of you who do not know, Lonely Whale was really started with a plastic straw and a vision to spark a global conversation that could redefine a new movement to combat unnecessary single-use plastics. Since, we have launched initiatives that have empowered the next generation of climate advocates, and we've convened global brands, some of which have brought us into this room this evening, to really reimagine how they create and package their products. But at the core of what we do is really radical collaboration. And I'm really thrilled to introduce you to our work and that vision through Seaweed Stories tonight. So this film was inspired by our journey to combat one of the ocean's greatest challenges today, thin film plastic. It's this flexible material that we use to pack and ship our products all around the world, and it is used at an astonishing rate. The fashion industry alone uses 180 billion with a B, single-use plastic polybags every single year. And this material is nearly impossible to recycle. It accounts for just under half of all new plastic waste that enters the ocean every year. So alongside a community of over 60 partners, again, some of whom are in the room with us tonight, including one of our producers, Barrett, and some of our incredible musical partners as well, who you walked into actually hearing with the score of the film. But we were able to launch a program entitled the Tom Ford Plastic Innovation Prize to source and scale solutions to this thin film plastic challenge. In 2023, we awarded 3 winners, Sway, Zero Circle, and Napla. And by happenstance, each were harnessing the power of seaweed to create their alternative materials. This unexpected synchronicity prompted us to explore a world of seaweed innovation, where visionaries aren't just imagining solutions, but they're building the future today. I'm especially thrilled to have the film's incredible director, Jake Sumner, and our first place prize winner, Julia Marsh, co-founder and CEO of Sway, with us here this evening to share more about this world. And as you'll see, Jake's expert storytelling pulls back the curtain on a global network of people that are working with seaweed to help heal our planet, including Julia's work to reinvent packaging. And of course, we wouldn't be here without Philip. As the exclusive venture partner to the prize through his firm, Trousdale Ventures, Philip has played a pivotal role in supporting our work at Lonely Whale and accelerating the growth and the impact of these game-changing companies. So tonight, as you watch Seaweed Stories, I hope you feel inspired to join us. From exploring innovation through your work, sharing the film with others, or becoming part of our broader Lonely Whale community, we can make a lasting impact. So thank you for being here and for believing in the interconnected power of art and science. And I hope you enjoy tonight's film.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. So I lead Design Matters here at ArtCenter College of Design. Design Matters is the social innovation program here, and we do projects and programs that connect art and design with sustainable development, social justice, public policy, health, and social entrepreneurship. So at Design Matters, we like to say that our impact goes beyond the walls of our classrooms because we are teaching designers how they can be agents of change for our world as they go out into their careers. And it is incredibly inspiring to learn about these agents of change and meet some agents of change here tonight as well that are using seaweed, which not only gives us a vision for the future, but connects us with the histories and the cultures around the world, which is just beautiful. So I'm really, really thrilled to introduce the panel so we can dive more into these topics. So first, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Jieon Choi is a product design student and student ambassador for the Engineering for One Planet Sustainability Curriculum Project, where he represents student perspectives in efforts to integrate sustainable design practices across the industrial design curriculum here at ArtCenter. Jieon? Jake Sumner is an award-winning director of documentaries and commercials, including the beautiful film we just watched, Seaweed Stories. Other films include Bob of the Park and The Plastic Age with Pharrell Williams for Parley for the Oceans, and Nike's Everything is Practice with Spike Lee. Welcome, Jake. Julia Marsh is the CEO and co-founder of Sway, a material innovation startup scaling seaweed-based home compostable packaging. We just heard from Julia and excited to hear more from her. Her work is very obviously driven by a deep passion for regenerative design and biological circularity. Julia, welcome. Kristine Upesleja is an associate professor of product design here at ArtCenter, where she teaches wearables, material futures, a class that focuses on exploring, making, and growing materials in the lab. She is also the founder and manager of the Innovative Textile and Materials Department at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. Welcome, Kristine. And finally, we have Margaux Reynolds. Margaux is an ArtCenter Product Design and Design Matters minor alumna. She is currently a senior design strategist at BMW Group Designworks and has worked with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and recently participated in an exploration of algae at MIT. Margaux, welcome. Thank you so much to our panelists, and I will hand it over to John to get the conversation started.
Can I get a mic? Good. I think I can use that one. Thank you. Thank you. It was a wonderful film. Really enjoyed it. I guess we all have a question that we want to ask. I don't know if anyone can answer it here, but how do we tell difference between female and male seaweed? And how do we boost up their sex drive? Can anyone answer that here?
Use the red light. Yeah.
Use the red light. I'm pretty sure that works just well as, Okay, no. Right, I'm pretty sure that was a question that we all wanted to answer. But I guess we're all just going to Google it afterwards, right? All right. A lot of people here. Thanks for joining us tonight. Okay, let's go into it. Jake, can you share the origin story of the Seaweed Stories and what inspired you to start this film? And how did the experience working with the Lonely Whale Foundation and key partners like Trousdale Ventures, right, shape the film's journey?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, just wanted to say thank you to Phillip Sarofim for the screening, but also for making the film possible. This wouldn't have been possible without you. And so thank you so much for having us here on this amazing auditorium and this incredible school. Thank you. And Lonely Whale. So the truth is I'm married to one of the partners, Lonely Whale, Lucy. So that's kind of in our house. I would hear a lot about all the amazing work she was doing with the Tom Ford Innovation Prize, and I was just really curious about it, and this is kind of pre-seaweed, and then when the winner of the prize and the two runners-up were all innovating with seaweed to create a biomaterial, I thought, oh wow, seaweed's pretty cool. I hadn't really thought about it in any way, and I'm really interested in, I don't know, it's like that theory of maybe the most interesting person in the room is the person you're not paying attention to or something, I don't know if that's a theory, but that idea. So I thought, seaweed's this thing that you go to the beach and you're looking at other stuff and you're like swimming or you're looking at fish and you're kind of annoyed by the seaweed. But like, what if the seaweed is the thing, and to just go down the rabbit hole and explore that and kind of meet a cast of characters whose world is seaweed.
Wow, that was an awesome answer that I wasn't expecting. No, I was expecting it. Okay,
Thanks.
so I looked into your previous works, and a lot of your work surrounded around cultural icons and a lot of musical artists too. And now you've been working with seaweed, which is not a person. How did your approach differ when you worked with this project compared to your previous works?
That's a hard ball. Whoa,
It's a hard ball, but there's a couple in here.
Well, I just thought, it's kind of this. It's sort of what I said before. To me, it was kind of this unexpected thing that I hadn't really considered And I was just really curious about the kind of the different applications of it. And it's so colorful, and it's fun to look at, and it is this thing when you start to pay attention to it, it's kind of amazing. So I just thought that the challenge of the film was let's make seaweed this kind of the hero of the film. But really, I think it's a film about people and the people involved with it, and whose lives, I stepped into this, I knew nothing about it. And so it, to me, is more of a it's kind of about the people whose world is seaweed.
Awesome. As you step into the world of seaweed, our panelists here all have stepped into world of seaweed in different ways. Can we each share what was the key experience that has shaped your approach to seaweed and sustainable innovation? Maybe Julia, can you start?
Sure. And again, so happy to be here, and thank you all for coming out on a Monday night. Seaweed has been a part of my life since I was born. I was raised in California in the Monterey Bay area. I see someone wearing a Monterey Bay Aquarium hat, so yes. And I was fascinated by the kelp forest exhibit because it's like entering a totally different world that's just under the surface. So I always had that fascination, but using seaweed as a source material for a replacement for plastic was not intuitive or obvious. I stumbled into it by accident. As a designer working with brands, like I hinted in the film, I was at times responsible for sourcing or selecting materials. And oftentimes I would be using plastic, or I would be pitching alternatives and being shot down because the material didn't perform well or it was too expensive. And it caused me to become obsessed with what are the other maybe overlooked materials that would get yeses? And how could I, as a designer, make that material so easy to use that it would be just as easy to say yes to this alternative as it was to say yes to plastic. And that's how I landed in this seaweed world, which I know we'll talk more about, but seaweed's really easy to say yes to. It makes the world better in basically every way, as we saw. It's really a hero, and it's easy to, once you meet the potential of seaweed, it's easy to say yes to it. So, yeah.
Kristine?
Seaweed is a part of my interest and part of my research. So in general, I've been researching innovative materials and new technologies and new ways of making things for quite some time. I started 18 years ago the Innovative Textile Materials Department at FIDM, Fashion Institute of Design Merchandising, today ASU FIDM. And I've been teaching now for the past 6 years here at ArtCenter a class called Material Futures. And I'm so excited about it, because my students create their own materials. So they create materials out of food waste because we are drowning in food waste. They create materials from plastic waste. As we all know, we are drowning in plastic trash. And they also create their own biosynthetics in their own kitchen lab, for example, with cornstarch and glycerol and what else not. And we are experimenting also with mycelium, the mushroom root. Students create objects made from mycelium. And we just recently, so I'm also assisting the director of our materials lab, Semtel, here in his research, and we just received a few days ago the first flip-flops made from algae by UC San Diego. So we have a close relationship with their renewable materials department, and they donated these flip-flops from algae, which is a kind of seaweed, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Last but not least, Margaux?
Yeah, so I work in strategic foresight. So always looking at emerging behaviors, new experiences, what's the future going to look like. And so, like Kristine, seaweed is just one of the materials that I play around with, biomaterials. I graduated in product design 2019, and I was trying to figure out what kind of designer I wanted to be and how I wanted to make things. And I was really interested in speculative design, and biomaterials really spoke to me. So I I kind of came across this lab in New York called GenSpace, where I was able to take a couple of classes, and it had this really interesting way of embracing non-scientists into science. And so it introduced this new way of making where I was trading the bandsaw for a centrifuge, and instead of a ruler, I was using a pipette. And so it introduced this whole new world of making that I really didn't get to do in school yet. And so for me as a creative, it introduced this just new way of creating with materials that weren't based on extraction. It was based on growth. And for that, that was a turning point for me.
Thank you. Kristine and Margaux, I think you both can answer this question. Since you guys are both in the industry right now, how do you feel about seaweed being used as a new kind of material? And do you think, or can you see that the seaweed becoming the icon of sustainable design in the future?
So I hope so. I really hope so. That might be a question to you, Julia, because I'm fascinated by all these materials. And as I mentioned, I'm doing this for 18 years. And when nobody was talking about sustainability. So my biggest concern is right now with all these new hyped materials. So how is it scalable, which you addressed a little bit in the documentary, and how is it pliable? And I really applaud you, Julia, because I just saw 2 days ago on Instagram that you've been now collaborating with companies such as Prana and others, who've been using now your seaweed packaging, to package their clothing, and
Thank you, Margaux. How's BMW doing?
Well, I think we actually were trying to talk to you a little bit because Sway was actually really interesting for us. We like to approach like sustainability from the perspective of innovation and moonshot thinking. So one way of looking at that moonshot thinking is like looking for 10 times impact to like a huge crisis like climate change. And so we've had this program running for a couple of years called Visionary Materials, and we like to think that we can't do it alone. I work for Designworks, where our parent company is BMW, but we work with a lot of third-party clients. And so we engage with a lot of startups in new materials, one of which is seaweed, and a lot of other host of, as you said, Julia, hero materials, which is so true. There's mycelium, there's seaweed, there's all these great platforms for materiality that we're investigating. But we also recognize that we can't do it alone, so we're really interested in collaboration with other organizations, other experts, other innovators, and I think that's really where the solution is.
Why not collaborate with ArtCenter and do a sponsored project?
That's a good question.
No, let's bring back. Let's bring back spotlight to Jake again.
Oh, great.
Right? Every film project has a unique challenges, and I'm pretty sure this one has quite a bit too, especially since you're filming overseas and on location shootings too. Can you share one of the most exciting or maybe the toughest challenge that you've faced during filming this Seaweed Stories?
There was a lot of challenges to filming this because we didn't we wanted to do everything we did, but there were limitations to that came with the budget, but we just did them anyway, and so that comes with a certain amount of pain and a certain amount of it just makes it just difficult. But yeah, like specifics, like let me think. I mean, Korea was amazing, and just being on those seaweed farms was just super awe-inspiring. The scale of it, and just hanging out with a lot of the seaweed farmers over there. I'm actually wearing a Korean baseball hat, kind of in honor of my time. And Barrett, the producer of the film, one of the producers of the film, is here as well today. And Barrett's the best. So we had a great time in Korea, so I guess that was. That was tough. I mean, we went out with those seaweed farmers, insisted on taking us for dinner. So we ate a bunch of abalone the night before we were shooting and drank a lot of soju. And those guys can really drink. So we were...
Right, I know one or two about Korean drinking.
Yeah. So we were like all pretty hammered actually when we went out on the boat. But
It's not a good combo.
and
boat
we had to leave at like 3 a.m. or something to get to the boat.
And was this during winter or is it?
It was during winter.
Right,
Yeah, this
'cause,
is all in like February.
Right, because kim, which is seaweed that you've seen, normally grows during winter and cold. So
Yeah.
it must have been rough. Oh, yeah, I'm
It
pretty
was-
sure that was. Yeah.
It was very cold, and the guys, the Gim farmers themselves were totally fine, and like they went straight from the bar to the boat, and we were like, Anyway, no, that wasn't. That was one thing. I don't know. We got our car smashed in San Francisco. That was one thing that happened.
It's San Francisco.
Yeah. No, I mean it was challenging, and it was a lot of fun. It was so fun, and what an amazing experience to like go to all these places and meet all these people. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I can feel it in the film. Since Jake shared the toughest experience, opening up to rest of the panel, what was the biggest obstacle you've encountered throughout your career in a sustainable design or sustainable field? Julia? Or maybe you're anticipating to face to fulfill your dream of seaweed utopia.
The vision is big. There's this potential for seaweed to do all this good, and that's largely depicted in the film. What Dr. Kathy Ann hints at the end is there's also this risk that if we scale too quickly or without regard for the ecosystems, there can be harm done. And what I'm concerned about as we scale a new material that does have real potential to scale, and as we're addressing a problem as large as the plastic problem, how do we also like scale the seaweed industry responsibly so that we're not running into unintended consequences? And how do we work in partnership with ocean farmers to make sure that as we're scaling this industry, which is already global and already really well established, like how do we make sure it's getting all that goodness that we envision? Like it's improving biodiversity, it's boosting water quality, it's creating really resilient employment for coastal communities. It has all this great potential. Like, how do you maximize it with this pressure to scale so quickly and also deliver a product that's cost competitive?
So it's back to money, I guess. Yeah, Kristine?
No, I'm so excited to see the development. I just want to mention, so I see my icon, or I call her the mother of all the bio-grown materials, is Susan Lee. And I don't know if you know her. So she already started 20 years ago. I came across her project called BioCouture, and she has used cellulosic bacteria, sugar yeast, and tea to grow materials and created these really beautiful, unfortunately non-wearable garments. But now we are 20 years later, and like people like you, Julia, and other companies, we have come a long way. We are not there yet, but there's hope. So, and I'm really so excited to see, what's next.
I think one interesting thing working in strategic foresight is looking at emerging consumer expectations and behavior. And so one thing that we're seeing is this paradigm shift of expectation. When you look at something like seaweed or bacteria, and for me, working, for and with BMW premium luxury, you look at something like a biomaterial and you're like, how do you get our consumers to embrace biomaterials and, new aesthetics? We're definitely facing that right now. We're looking at bacterial cellulose, and so that was something that we're definitely exploring for our materials and in some of our programs, but also thinking about new performance capabilities. I think on screen you're showing like the tensile strength, and that was amazing. And so if we can get people to just accept that there might be some, like the lever just might change certain ways, because natural materials bring in so many different performance attributes that can outperform the status quo. Like we look at leather and we're trying to make bio leather. It's like, why don't we make something that's completely different? Doesn't have to look like leather. Doesn't have to imitate anything, but we have to get over that hump that people have to see something that they recognize that they know before they're willing to embrace something that's completely different. So that's something that I think I'm really exploring right now.
I would build on that too. Just the expectation that a single new material should do it all is unfair. So I love the diversity of solutions approach where it's like, we're not expecting seaweed to solve all plastic. It should operate in an ecosystem of solutions where you have, microbes and coffee bean waste and mycelium, and everybody's here to kind of play and like mimic the diversity of nature. And that's how you actually get the solutions to be adopted.
Yeah. And I mean, bioplastics have been around for quite some time. Even companies such as Coca-Cola, using bioplastic made from plants. But I think the issue here is also our recycling system that is sometimes or often very doesn't work that great. And bioplastics often land on landfills and keep rotting like usual normal plastic and don't do any good to the environment.
It's interesting that you mentioned that bioplastic lands in a landfill and that's the problem. I'm pretty sure a lot of people do have understanding on how bioplastic work, but can you explain on why that can be a problem? Because some might think that, it's bioplastic, it's go back to ground, it might just compose.
Yeah, if you material needs, if it's composable, it really needs to be not in landfill or in it needs heat and microbes, and that breaks it down, and if the recycling system, so if it's not a special facility where it can decompose and it's not working and then it keeps rotting, so it has no air. If there's no air,
so you need to have a proper end of the life process even for bioplastic to be truly sustainable, not just a green little mark on your products. That's not gonna make it sustainable.
Oh, I'd argue with that. There's so much focus on end of life, but origin of life is so important. And if I'm choosing between material that's sourced from petroleum and will last in landfill forever and possibly end up as litter in nature where it'll turn into microplastics that last for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, or a biomaterial sourced from seaweed that did all this good just by growing in the ocean, and then it's in landfill, not by design, but by the way that our systems currently exist. And then if it does naturally decompose, maybe over a longer period of time in landfill, or if it does end up as litter, it's not causing pollution. It will decompose. So I would say that the latter is better, even if just for the origin of life story. But that's my opinion as the founder of a materials company.
Well, I think we have a great insights here. Moving on, I want to get a little serious here. And we had an election recently, and I think one of the results kind of shows that people sometimes will choose the option that will bring bread to your table, even if it's not the case, even if it's not true. How do you see the seaweed economy will help create sustainable future for not just our planet, but with our community?
I'll do a short answer, which is kind of what I just hinted at. I love the idea that we can bake goodness into everyday materials so that whether or not it's composted, you have the benefit of knowing that a material was responsibly sourced and produced and manufactured, that it's non-toxic, and that when you, the shopper, receives the package, you have already done something good. You're empowered by that. It wasn't your choice. You just wanted to buy a shirt from your favorite retailer, but the goodness is baked into the material. And I love the convenience of material that has that foresight in it, because that's how you kind of introduce people to environmental or social change, is by just baking it in. They didn't need to do anything out of their way, and then maybe here and there it's a learning moment, and all of a sudden you've converted someone to say, oh, actually it feels good to care for the environment.
Awesome. Let's move on. Jake, back to you. How did you approach capturing the diverse voices in Seaweed Stories? We did look into indigenous cow farming community to award-winning startup. How did you capture the human stories revealed within Seaweed Stories? Is it
So that was a mix of things. There were some people who it was just a natural fit. Obviously, Julia being, one of those people who sort of came along with the project. But I felt like to surround Julia with interesting characters in the seaweed world. And so it was a bit of a casting process to find the people in the film. And I kind of did a deep dive along with Lonely Whale, and you spend a lot of time on Zoom with different people around the world doing different projects. And I think like anything, like seaweed is having this kind of moment, and there's a lot of charlatans, I think, who kind of are involved. And also there's some people that are like great, but they might not be the most interesting person to watch in a film. So there was kind of it was a bit of like trial and error, just talking to lots of people in all kinds of time zones. And it was really important to me to find a real range of people that were kind of fun to watch, and who were doing really interesting work, like Julia, but kind of tick the box of like, oh, I want to learn more about this person, I kind of wanted to find people that were as interesting to me. I was, kind of the judge of this thing, which isn't totally fair, but people that were as interesting to me as kind of the seaweed itself, who, so that was what we did.
I'm definitely not asking this question because I'm Korean, but is there any reason why you picked Korea over Japan? Maybe because in the documentary, the doctor mentions about that the game industry and both nori industry are a permanent feature in both cultures, and I'm wondering, it can be just because you like to get drunk with soju, but is there any particular reason why you went with Korea?
I'm not going to wade into that one. That's
fair enough.
Jang is just a really amazing guy. And actually, the part of the story that's not missing, I think it was in the film at some point, but I think for time we lost it, is Jang is Dr. Charlie Yarish. It was his former student.
Oh.
Yeah.
So did he introduce him to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Jang was a great gateway into Korea and works very closely with all of the amazing Gim farmers that we saw and the processing plant that we filmed in. So yeah, that's how that one happened.
Awesome. One more question for you, Jake.
Okay.
First, thanks to wonderful people here at ArtCenter, I got a chance to watch this film before today with a screener. And first time I watched it, I was quite surprised that Mr. Forrest Whitaker was the voice throughout the documentary. I wonder, was there any particular reason you picked Mr. Forrest Whitaker as a voice for the documentary? Is there any message that you wanted to give as picking him as the voice?
I mean, he's Forrest Whitaker. You know?
I mean, that was my initial response too. But
he's an American icon and one of the greats. And I mean, it happened because my mom is a film producer and made a film with him called Black Nativity, which is an independent musical, maybe like 10 years ago. And then I met him and just struck up a conversation. And he's in one of my favorite movies, Ghost Dog. He's Ghost Dog, So we got. So I was just like, super excited to hang out with Ghost Dog and to talk with him and talk to him about kung fu, and which I don't practice, but he does. And it turns out that Jim Jarmusch wrote the movie because of Forrest's kung fu practice.
Wow.
So we just got into just talking, and he was just a really sweet, cool guy. And then we were thinking about the voice for this film. And there were lots of names being thrown around, and that one just kind of stuck. And Lucy always has a good way of putting this. She does many things, but he kind of has, it's kind of, wait, Lucy, what is it? What is it you say?
Levity and gravitas.
Yeah, that's right. He has that's great. It's
Levity
true.
and gravitas.
He has this great combo of levity and gravitas, he's kind of fun, but he's also kind of, he's got real presence with his voice. So yeah, it was just kind of a great marriage.
Well, I guess when Forrest Whitaker says yes to your request, I mean, no one can argue with that, right?
Yeah, he said yes.
Right.
He was
said
he was
yes.
into it. I actually, it's funny 'cause Julia's here, because the thing we sent him like an early rough cut with I think our editor James's wife doing the narration parts, and it was like kind of a rough temp track, and we were like, oh, I hope he likes it. But he was like, I like the film, and I particularly liked Julia Marsh and her sway and everything they're doing with, totally. He just kind of, so he
That
was.
can't be true.
That's
I've never
true.
heard that.
That's true. That's true. He was really into it, and he wanted to know more about sway, and so I was like, yes.
You should set up a meeting for.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean,
Well, he's
Forrest
into.
Whitaker,
He's
it's
very deep. I
perfect.
think he's deep into innovation and stuff, and does do various projects. So I think that's why I think he kind of gravitated to that to Julia's
well,
story.
all of you heard from here. Mr. Forrest Whitaker is into sustainability. All right. So I guess it's going to be the last question here, Jake. If somehow all the audience here on the way out ran into Men in Black and got flashed with neuralizer, forgetting everything we just saw, heard this, but somehow they can remember just one thing, what would that be?
Whoa, Jieon, you got. I don't. What was the one thing?
What's the one thing that you wish everyone here to remember?
Next time you go to the beach, maybe just, I don't know. I don't know if you're here, maybe you do think about seaweed in a different way, or maybe you do consider it. But like, if you go to the beach, I hope maybe you recall something from the film. That would be the one thing.
Well, everybody forgot everything about the film, so I'm not too sure if that's going to be possible.
Oh
but-
wait, yeah. Wait, then I don't know how does that work?
Well, maybe if this gets released to the public, just remember to go and watch it again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pay a little extra attention to
A
seaweed.
little extra attention to see it.
Yeah.
Julia, maybe one thing that you wish everyone to remember on the way home?
Yeah, especially to the designers or creatives in the room, just wield your power as designer to make material change and work in collaboration with people from very different worlds, because that's how you make change happen.
Kristine?
So pay attention to your materials, pay attention what you're wearing, what you are sitting on, what you're standing on, and and be curious and be educated. Yeah, educate yourself.
Always be curious. That's a great motto.
And curious, yeah, and that's the main ingredient for a designer, in my opinion. Without curiosity, so yeah, if I wouldn't have been curious or still wouldn't be still curious, I wouldn't have created or
Margaux?
Yeah, I think the same. I'd second what you're saying, because I think, and look closely, like get down on the ground, because there's detail, and it's just amazing when you actually appreciate nature and the details and architecture that nature can create. You'll realize that, nature is the ultimate biodesigner or designer, because, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Biomimicry, right? Awesome. I think we had a great conversation here tonight. Now I think we're opening up to the audience, right? We do have a mic stand right here. If you guys have any question, please stand in a line and we'll take your question. Thank you.
Hi. So when talking about like new material, especially when it comes,
First of all, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Hui Ling. I'm from product department, and I'm focused on CMF design, which I'm also focused on like automotive aspects. My question is about like new material, because when talking about like when people are trying to accept or trying to adapt to the new materiality, one thing is that like it's easier for us to find something that's more associated, just like how we trying to apply like leather-like pattern onto some kind of new materials. But in that case, like it could be kind of controversial or kind of like debates between like how much should we preserve of the original appearance or the visual or the aesthetics of the material that brought from this new material that made from like seaweeds or other kind of bio aspects. So in that case, like how would you like kind of balance or even propose this idea of using bio alternatives when it comes to industrial level of proposing to company, propose to what kind of suppliers that you're heading for? Just want to know more about this kind of aspects when it really comes to the design proposal, when you're trying to communicate.
Thank you.
So I think that's for me, right? I guess I can give you an example. So we have a program called Visionary Materials. It's public. You guys are all welcome to check it out. We used seeding as a research platform because it's like the most complex structure in automotive, where you can introduce like soft materials, hard material structure, all of that. And so we introduced, like I said, bacteriocellulose. And it was interesting, the iteration that we went through with the vendor, I guess you'd say the creator, the biomaterial creator, to create something that we thought would be acceptable to an automotive audience. Even just industry standards. And I think that what you're asking is kind of even just a bigger picture question, because I think there's going to be time where the whole industry has to adapt. So I think today, like, yeah, we are looking to leather because it's what everyone knows as, you know, what would be on your seat. But I think that is a provocation to think, you know, even for yourself, like, even for myself, like what do we want to express in a material? It's an opportunity. I wouldn't even think about the benchmark being what our expectation is. I think it's more about like what could be. So today it's like, yeah, we're trying to imitate leather or pleather or any of the standard hides. But if you think about it, there's no real reason to do that other than customer expectations. So, you know, as a student, as somebody who's going to pave the future, I would definitely encourage, you know, just be creative and think about, you know, what's idiomatic for that particular material, whether it's algae, like is there form language or texture that you could really draw inspiration from the source material itself.
Okay, thank you.
No, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe. Nice to meet you. Question for Julia. So you alluded to the potential downsides of scaling seaweed production too high. And I love the idea of a material that can be as natural, regenerative, deals with the O2 and CO2 cycles. That's amazing. So in your doomsday scenario that it really succeeds and scales up to the maximum it could possibly scale up to, what are some of the things that you're thinking about could go wrong?
Lovely question. No, it's
question,
important to flag because a lot of the headlines you'll read about the seaweed renaissance we're experiencing are very positive, and just because seaweed can be good doesn't mean that it is. So it is important to highlight that there's nuance in sourcing, and what I'm concerned about is mimicking what we've seen in terrestrial agriculture happening again in the water. So monoculture, excess use of pesticides or chemicals in the water. Fortunately, we have, as was mentioned in the film, 70% of the planet is ocean, so there's plenty of space, but how do you use systems that can bring people along with that as well? So that's part of what C6 was working on, is like this basically sea tractor that can responsibly farm seaweed further out at sea. So there's kind of like a lack of policy in the water that needs to probably emerge to ensure that we have good practices in the water. And then there's technology advancements that need to happen to make it safe for people as the industry grows.
Hello, my name's Nathan Horner, and I'm an artist and entrepreneur. And my daughter goes to school here, and I'm so proud of her. But anyways, my company's called Nictavi, and my product's made with plastic, medical grade plastic. But I was wondering, Julia, if there's a way that you maybe even use AI to mimic the molecular structure of that you derive to make the plastics with, to like scale it that way, not really grow the seaweed, but to mimic it molecularly. And maybe if you could ask AI, because it's going to be able to figure out all kinds of stuff, then we could maybe figure out a way to do that and, go away from like the other petroleum-based plastics.
Thanks for the question, Nathan. There are advancements in machine learning happening around material formulation to advance and more rapidly develop solutions for plastic that I'm excited about. Materium is an example of that kind of programming. However, what I'm so excited about in this field is the partnership with nature, and that by cultivating seaweed responsibly and working with agricultural waste and other generous sources of new materials, you see positive benefits that check multiple boxes. So when J. Crew, for example, who we were connected with via the Tom Ford Plastic Innovation Prize and Lonely Whale, when we're working with J. Crew, they're not just thinking about their plastic goal, they're thinking about their biodiversity goal and their water stewardship goal and their social impact. And if we can have a solution that, like seaweed, that works in tandem with all those aspects, then it's much easier for them to push our slightly more expensive packaging solution through the door. And we get more impact as a result. So the answer is yes, I think AI absolutely will play a role in advancing material formulation, but I hope that it's done responsibly in partnership with nature.
My name is David Martin, and you've talked about this material generally in terms of soft fabrics and the illustrations and so on. What if I wanted to, well, many people here design chairs, few people are doing cars. Is there a way to mix fiber with the seaweed to get something that's tough and hard and something you could sit on?
Yes.
And so where do we go to find out about that?
There are hundreds of grades of plastic, and right now we have just a couple grades of our, what we call thermoplastic seaweed, which I have in my pocket.
Ooh. Okay. Nice.
So this is where the source.
And this is all that's available. No, I'm just kidding. We're producing thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of this right now. And we're focused on flexible films because this is a category of plastic that functionally never gets recycled, like Emy was mentioning earlier. However, there are great examples of places where biology can be paired with durable products, reusable products, and we really want to explore that. And I love the prospect of matchmaking seaweed with other generous feedstocks or waste feedstocks to create products like furniture or automotive parts.
What if a student wanted to do this next semester?
Are you the student?
Obviously.
Never
Could
know.
you see?
Find me after. We love working with universities, and it's the creativity that comes out of these programs that allows us to prospect what may be next. So absolutely open to that.
Julia, I actually had a question while watching your part of the film. It seems like it's possible to make it as your raw material as a filament for a 3D printer. Have you ever thought about that, or is it something that you've explored, your company have explored?
Yes.
Elaborate?
Yes.
No, and where can I get it?
Through me.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Is in your pocket too, whole filament?
We're working on rigid grades as well as 3D filament grades of the material. The challenge of being a startup is that we have to create laser focus on our current packaging application, which is polybags for the fashion industry, but we allocate about 20% of our development time towards forthcoming or new projects. And there are places where seaweed makes a lot of sense, either in, like a injection molded, compression molded, or a 3D printed format.
Thank you. Next.
Hi. I'm Jess. I'm a grad student at UCLA, and we study giant kelp molecular biology in the lab. And I don't have a question. I hope this isn't annoying, but we have answers about seaweed sex. So I just wanted to give a brief little.
Please come up here. Come up here. This is the prime question we all wanted the answer to.
So, hi. Seaweed sex is like really my favorite thing to nerd out about. Because, so I'll tell you, it's different in every species, but what we work on mostly is kelps and giant kelp. There's like, it has different life phases, and at one of the life phases, you can tell whether it's male or female based on the size of the gamete that's produced. So seaweed actually makes egg and sperm, and the egg is a lot bigger and the sperm is small and swims around just like for us, even though it evolved like completely independently. And one of my favorite textbooks, there's a picture where the egg produced a pheromone, like a sex pheromone, and then you see all the sperm flocking towards the egg, and it's very cool. Yeah, that's it.
Just like us.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Because
the Jang, actually, the guy who's doing it and conducting that stuff, he'll do stuff with light and color to stimulate, but he also will play music too.
Was it K-pop or is it?
No. He plays a lot of like classical music and jazz. Yeah. I don't know.
Did he ever try to maybe drop a couple of sojus in it to? Next question, please.
Hey, I'm Giancarlo Sisante, and I work with a bag manufacturer. I assume it's very expensive drastically expensive as far as using plastics and seaweed. How do you make it more attractive for companies to use that material?
Questions are welcome for the other panelists as well. I feel bad to hog this panel. So our technology has been designed for the most scaled plastic manufacturing on Earth. So we're working with both blown and cast film extrusion, which is how, the film that you're producing in your bag manufacturing is made. And for that reason, as we scale, we do benefit from the same cost savings and efficiency that traditional plastic benefits from. So that aspect makes things easier for us. The challenge is that we're trying to responsibly source seaweed in a way that improves ecosystems and communities. And it is impossible for this material sourced that way to compete with plastic, which actually does the exact opposite. And so it's unfair to hold this material to that same standard. The way that we can reduce cost over time is by working with lots of different types of seaweed from different regions, working with less charismatic seaweed like the sargassum floating throughout the Caribbean and actually across the whole Atlantic right now. And it's also by working with brands that believe in the future of materials and know that plastic is already a faux pas, and brands like J. Crew, who we've partnered with through this prize, Burton, who we were paired with via Lonely Whale, Florence, Prana, Alex Crane, Faraday. These are all brands that are adopting our materials, and they're okay with the premium today because they know that, again, the material is checking multiple boxes for them. And over time, the costs will go down, and then everyone, including Walmart and Target and CVS, can adopt the material too.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Look forward to it.
I think that's all of the questions that we have tonight, and I think we'll welcome back President Karen Hoffman back to the stage.
Thank you, Jieon. I would like to thank each one of our panelists. Margaux, it's great having you back home. And what an inspiration. I remember when you were just, give you a hand. The reminder for all of us that it's lifelong learning, and it's so inspiring to see how you continued your trajectory from just exploring CMF to really material innovation. We're so proud of you. And Christina, the champion amongst other amazing faculty here, which is pushing that curiosity, your commitment to material innovation. We're so grateful to have you teaching here. Thank you. Julia, the one thing that stuck in my mind, if I can still have a memory from tonight, if I could, Jieon, radical collaboration. I think radical collaboration is what we have to do in order to really get to the big solutions, and we're so thankful for your presence here tonight as well. And Jake, I can't wait to get back in the ocean. I think that's the one thing that I took away tonight is I'll never see seaweed the same. Yeah. And what an amazing gift that we've all had tonight. And Phillip, thank you for bringing this to us and the whole team. It really has been an inspiring conversation, one that will turn into action. And how about our moderator, Jieon? Wow. You did a great job, and this I think this is the first time we've had a student moderating a panel like this before, and I think we're onto something. And you set the bar very high. We're very proud of you. Thank you, Jieon.
My pleasure.
And
thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and we look forward to the continued conversations.